Hey, welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Hope you're doing well there. If you guys could subscribe, that'd be great, and appreciate you stopping by. So I was about to sit down here. I was going to talk about day 2 of camp, a little bit of Zach Sieler. Sealer it on up. But this breaking news just happened as I was sitting down, and I was like, my guy Vlad, who will be on the show from time to time on Tobin and Leroy, he's like, hey, Christian Wilkins, get him back on the Chiefs. I was like, what are you talking about, dude? And I look on Twitter. Adam Schefter, Raiders are releasing defensive tackle Christian Wilkins with designation of terminated vested veteran. His time in Las Vegas is now over due to how Wilkins treated the rehab from his foot injury he suffered last season. The Raiders voided the remaining $35.2 million of guaranteed money left on his contract last month, and today Wilkins fired a grievance with the NFL Players Association. With the Raiders voiding the remaining $35.2 million guarantee left on Wilkins' contract last month, Wilkins is filing a grievance with the Players Association. This situation is far from over. What the hell? Huh. Wow. This is crazy. I mean, I saw that news that he was still messed up with the foot, and I was like, man, what the hell's going on with his foot? That seems like something that's really bad. He just signed a 4-year, $110 million deal with the Raiders last year. That's crazy. Holy crap. Bring him back on the cheapskates. Maybe Vlad's onto something. Wink. That's whew. Sorry, guys. I literally am kind of gathering this is all it's going on. Ian Rappaport releases 5-year, $110 million. Wilkins, who had been dealing with a serious foot injury, is on the books for $57.5, fully guaranteed. They have an ongoing dispute over his foot and whether or not to have surgery. The team wanted him to. He declined after several opinions. Wow. Sheesh. That is crazy. Well, that's, and I don't know. I'm ignorant to this, but I wonder what the situation is while they grievance over this money. I guess if they're releasing him, he is going to be a free agent after he clears waivers. So, is he going to get to, I mean, I guess it's going to depend. The Dolphins are going to probably, if they did, you'd imagine, you look at the Dolphins and be like, hey, come on down. Even though they did draft Kenneth Grant. But he, the Dolphins know his body best. I wonder if they had any inclination that maybe something was going on. There was, obviously a bit of a standoff and frostiness. So I don't know. I don't know if he's going to want to come here or not. I have no idea. But we obviously know that his best friend, who is also in a contract holdout with Christian Wilkins. It was funny enough, Christian Wilkins, Zach Sieler was talking about Christian Wilkins today and discussing how, they don't really talk about their contract stuff. They kind of just check on themselves personally. That's crazy. Armando Salguero says there were concerns about the progress of his rehab and his role in that lack of progress. Man. Pretty friggin' crazy, dude. That is bananas. Anyway, I got on here to talk about Zach Sieler, which is interesting. These guys never seem to get away from each other. But Zach Sieler today did talk about his contract situation. Now, remember with Christian Wilkins, before last year, his whole thing was he went in, he ran roughshod on camp, and then after a couple of weeks, he was just like, all right, you guys get it. I'm awesome. And then he finished out the season. Zach Sieler, he has shown up. He's doing all the drills. Not really surprised by that. Zach Sieler, man of principle. His word is oak because he's a man's man. No shade on anybody who does hold out. I know that the NFL is a gnarly business, as has just been displayed by Christian Wilkins getting dumped on a $110 million contract. So everybody goes about it their own way. And he was explaining this today, that everybody goes about it their own way. But he believes that, his way of going it for right now is doing everything. And I got to tell you, man. But he was saying today on his, his stats. I think the thing with me that I've found a little concerning about the Zach Sieler thing is, like, the reasons of not paying him are dumb. They're, like, sitting here and they're like, well, look at his age. And I thought the Zach Sieler, like, it may be bro science, but he was like, I played a D2 and I didn't get that many snaps early in my NFL career. I don't think I have the wear and tear. Now, to be fair, he does play a lot of snaps now, so maybe that could be coming. But I don't know, man. He seems like such a behemoth. It basically took like a Captain Insano poke to the eye to get him off the field. He's wearing the visor now. Looks, by the way, like an absolute monster grizzly bear, this Zach Sieler. I think letting that guy be disgruntled, be in a position where he's not getting his worth, I think is crazy. I understood the Jonnu Smith thing. Like there was part of me that understood it. I was like, they invested a lot in two receivers. They took a big step back offensively last year, and that's not Jonnu Smith's fault. But I understand where you got to cut some things. You can't pay everybody. But you have a defense right now that doesn't have Jalen Ramsey, doesn't really have big investments in anybody else on the defensive side of the football. And you have a very thin defensive line. Shout out to Benito Jones for getting the orange jersey. And you drafted a rookie and you drafted some other rookies. Maybe they'll turn out to be awesome, but you don't know. This guy is, been handling everything with flying colors every which way. He embodies everything. You talk about leadership, physicality. You know that he's one of those dudes. So I just don't see what the downside of it is. Now, the only thing that it could be, that could be looked upon as maybe a little bit iffy is if the Dolphins are just like, look, the truth of it is we're not going for it this year with any investment. We don't know how good we're going to be. We may stink. And that they want to be in a position to have as many decks cleared as possible. It's a little tough because you still probably invested like one more year truly in Tua. You got the money invested in Tyreek Hill. It's not like you're going to be scot-free clean, but we know that if this goes bad this year, all things likely that the Miami Dolphins are going to make some changes. Probably with the coach. I'm still not a believer that Chris Grier is going anywhere. I have to see it to believe it because that dude has been like the ultimate survivor when it comes to this stuff. But this to me is one of those things where I feel like when a guy goes about his business the way Sieler does, and he's such a game wrecker, I can't sit here and be like, oh, you pay him until he's 33, 34. That's going to be a disaster. I just don't think so, dude. If he was a speed guy, maybe I'd be a little bit more concerned. He's not. You've paid Jalen Ramsey. You gave him an extension that was going to go into his 30s. You gave Tyreek Hill an extension that was going to go into his 30s. I don't want to hear that about Zach Sieler. And if you are in a position where you're like, we're just not that sure about this year, and maybe that's what the Dolphins are. That could be the only logical thing is that the Dolphins are looking at this being like, we're just not paying anybody. And then it becomes easier, I guess, to trade him. Somebody can essentially, trade for him and give him a new deal. That kind of happened with Bradley Chubb. So maybe that's the other end game here. But I don't find it surprising that he's not exactly in a spot where the great Zach Sieler is sitting here making a stink. And maybe he should. Usually the guys who don't make a stink, it usually doesn't work out for him. Christian Wilkins didn't really make that big of a stink. He was honest about it at the podium, but he showed up like a professional basically every day except for some stupid weeks at camp, which he didn't need. And by the way, added up to his sack total, had a monster year, and did earn a monster deal with the Raiders contract, which, by the way, they didn't uphold. Which will tell you all the reason why these guys should probably take the tactics that they do. But this is crazy. I'm still like, I'm miffed looking at this Christian Wilkins thing. And yeah, it would be a cool story if he did come back, but like, man, it's, people are sitting here and I think that the narrative on him as well, he didn't rehab right. That doesn't seem like Christian Wilkins' character to be lazy about something. I think that he's going to get a lot of that flack for this. And I don't know, man. That's not really, I mean, unless you're saying like Christian Wilkins went to Las Vegas and got complete fat cat syndrome, that's just not the guy we tend to know. And the Raiders, their track record's less than solid. Let's be real about it. So I'm very interested to see how more of these details come out and where things go. But listen, if you're not going to pay Zach Sieler, if you're going to pull like a Damian Lillard and bring his rehab over here on the cheap skis, maybe that puts him in a better spot. But I'm curious to see how this whole grievance thing, like what's the better look on as far as being with the team as far as that goes. But that's a bananas friggin' story. Bananas that Christian Wilkins is released by the Raiders 1 year after signing $100+ million contract. That's crazy. And it does show you like these guys in the NFL, like it's a different game. It's a different game with this stuff. I know that people get frustrated because, plenty of players, don't go through their whole deals, but this is kind of why. Like, it's not like the NBA. It's not like baseball where there's any protections. And they're sitting here and they're arguing about like how he should go about treating his foot, and it's a bananas thing. I'm not going to pretend to know all the details because this is obviously breaking as I'm recording it, so I'm sure we'll get some more storylines on it. But it's interesting how it goes hand in hand with how the whole Sieler thing is going on. And, he was mentioning today, and I think one of the other things, too, that's great about Zach is he did mention today about, he's trying to give as much tutelage to Kenneth Grant as it goes, and even been impressed by Savai Naya. I know there was a blurb today about Savai Naya got a good one. I think Travis Wingfield tweeted that he got a good one on Zach Sieler. Zach Sieler going full go in a non-pad practice. Hard to say, but even if it's a little confidence boost for young Jonah, and we got that too. So wild story for the Christian Wilkins part. Zach Sieler making it as little drama as possible. Not too surprising. We'll see if things change when the pads go on. He did kind of leave that window open. He is a Drew Rosenhaus guy. We know Drew's got a rock-solid relationship when it comes to Chris Grier. In a lot of ways, sometimes he's like the shadow GM of the Miami Dolphins. So I'd imagine that even though the Jonnu thing didn't work out, kind of feel like the wink Sieler thing, I would be surprised if it doesn't. And if he does, then I feel like he's going to probably be on the move too. I don't know if the Dolphins are going to be like, nah, tough nuggets, you're going to finish out the year. I feel like Drew's going to look at that and be like, come on, man. What are we doing here? But and look, Zach Sieler made it known. He's like, I'm not here to say I'm unthankful, but I do feel like I've, I'm good. I need to show that I'm respected and get what I've earned. And when you put up the numbers that he has on the bargain deal that he has, it's the NFL, dude. You're going to be expecting a raise when it comes to that. And, man, I'm hopeful the Dolphins can keep him because I need to be in my living room on my couch when he runs roughshod and breaks it up, and I need to go Sieler it on up.